some gin in the afternoon and whiskey in the evening? Or politicians like Liaquat, who had similar tastes? Or would Islam be protected by the ulama? It was a logical question. And that is where you can see the impetus towards theocracy. Maulana Azad, wise man, I wish we had the courage to remember him. We don't have the courage to remember what he says. Argued this over and over again. Islam is not a nationhood. There is no example of a nation being created in the name of Islam. Islam is a brotherhood. It is not a nationhood. If Islam was sufficient to be the glue for a nation, why would there be 26 Arab countries? Or 22, I don't know, whatever. They are culturally the same, they have the same faith, they have everything, but it never was. And this is something that has become the problem, the rationale that has begun to develop. And that is why you will see that as history drives us forward, Pakistan will become increasingly prone to its own objective resolutions. Never forget that Pakistan was the first Islamic republic in the world. It will be drawn towards a theocracy, even by people who want to resist it. There are lots of Pakistanis who will resist it, who would be horrified. They don't want a theocracy. But what do you do when I said the DNA catches up with you? And this is really, now we have not formulated, in my view, a sufficient challenge. The Quranic view of jihad is very simple. Let me shock you. Many people ask me, what is the best definition of jihad? I said, you want to have a very good definition of jihad? Why don't you read the Bhagavad Gita? Yes, I say that seriously. Krishna's exhortation to Arjun, that there comes a time when you have to go to war, is exactly what jihad is. It is a war principle, a war doctrine created by the faith, required and can be only indulged in by the faith, sort of ordered by the state. When the order collapses, when there is chaos. Every jihad may be fought by Muslims, but every Muslim war is not a jihad. Jihad has very clear rules. Hazrat Abu Bakr, the first Khalifa, put it down, 10 rules in which he said very clearly, you cannot kill women, children, bystanders, palm trees, destroy wells. You know, the raised ground theories of war. You can't do that. Now what are we doing? I'll take an anecdote to explain what is actually happening in reality. This was on the 5th anniversary of 9/11. I was at Brookings, where I'm a fellow, and in Washington, and George Bush used a term called Islamofascism. And the next day, CNN asked me to come and discuss this term. So I entered the studio. I said that anybody's got a calculator. So what do you want a calculator for? I said, I want to count. What do you want to count? I said, I want to count the age of Islam. Islam is 1400 years old. When did fascism enter our dictionary? Fascism came in only in 1920 with Mussolini. Uske pehle there was no fascism. I said, so whatever else Islam may or may not be, it can't be fascist. On the other hand, it is perfectly true that many Muslims are fascists. Perfectly true that many Muslims are fascists. But why do you blame Islam for the sins of Muslims? We do not go around blaming Christianity for Hitler. You don't go around blaming the Vatican, the Roman Catholic Church, for Mussolini. Why do you blame Islam for the sins of Muslims? And therefore we have to change the discourse. You take any element of this discourse, my friends. Everybody here sitting, Uday spoke of being called to the universe of seminars. He used a polite term. Arthur Koestler had used a far more impolite term for it. And everyone has been invited to a seminar on Islam and the West. The last time that happened to me was when I was guest of Richard Holbrooke, actually, at the Asia Society's annual conference. I may add, before I proceed, that he hasn't called me again. It is a beautiful place called Bali, a wonderful place. What an extraordinary place. You should really go there. And don't waste your time on the beaches. Go on the upper. And I was there with this fabulous hotel, waterfall, God knows what else. And so I thanked them, and I was asked to open the conference. So I thanked them very much. I said, the ticket could have been better, but the hotel is beautiful. And then I said, maybe it was jet lag that prompted this. But I said, that thank you very much for everything, but which low IQ person thought of this subject, Islam and the West? I said, how do I discuss Islam in the West? Islam is a religion, the West is geography. Yeah. Why don't we have a discussion on Islam and Christianity? I can tell you that Mary has been mentioned 23 times in the Quran and only 5 in the New Testament. I can tell you that Jesus has been called Ruhullah, the Ruh of Allah. He is venerated. We can have lots of things. In fact, the Quranic rationale for the virginity of Mary is far more convincing than the biblical rationale. Because when the Quran is asked that why do you consider that if it says she is a virgin, then obviously Jesus is the Son of God. How do you dispute that? And the Quran says it is up to God to create how He will. Adam was born of neither man nor woman. Do we call Adam divine? It is up to God to create. I said, unless, of course, the only rationale for this. See, why don't we discuss Islam in Southeast Asia? We can discuss how the Dutch used to boil Indonesians. We can discuss with the West and South Asia. And I can tell you, I'm from Bengal, how 10 million out of 30 million Bengalis died of famine in the first 5 years of British rule, and 4 million died between 42 and 43. We can discuss it. That is discussion between West and South Asia. We can discuss West and West Asia. We can go from, from the famous 1918, whatever decision was taken, Balfour Declaration, right up to Jimmy Carter and Clinton. You can discuss it. How do you discuss Islam and Christianity? The West and Islam, unless there is a subtext. And what is the subtext? That the West represents everything that is scientific, beautiful, harmonious, civilized, and the Islam is really a code name for something medieval, barbaric, and you're really apprehensive that instead of talking to you, I'll take out my sword and start, You have created a discourse. Last point, and I know I'm really extending my privileges, but my last point, which I feel strongly about, is the Naxalite a terrorist? I think we need to debate this. The Naxalite has not come from Pakistan. The Naxalite is our son, our child. The Naxalite is the child of those who have been left out of the narrative of rising India. Naxalite belongs to that class which we do not see. That class we have created, the best of that class becomes a domestic servant. The Naxalite belongs to those we have forgotten to feed. I looked at pictures of Lalgarh. I saw dao. It's a Bengali word, I don't know what the